नरघट तक है तेरी कहानी, पग पग प्यारे। दंगल 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 दंगल, सूरज तेरा चढ़ता ढलता गर्दिश में करते हैं तारे। दंगल 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 दंगल।
Great morning, great morning. I will be going to start with lecture number 2. Lecture 2. Reading 38. Reading 38. And lecture number 2. And the topic which we are doing is working capital management. So friends, in the last lecture, that is in lecture number 1, I have not covered any learning outcome. There are 7 learning outcomes, but I have not covered any of them. I have just told you the intro part, that what is the meaning of working capital, why the funds are required, what are the reasons of fund, all that basic concepts and the introductory concepts I have given you in the last lecture, number 1. Now in today's lecture, I will be starting with your learning outcome number A, and I will be covering learning outcome A, that is what are the different sources of liquidity. What is the meaning of primary source and secondary source? And what are the factors? What are the factors which affect the liquidity position of an entity? So this 2 or 3 aspects we will be covering in lecture number 2 and 3. It means in learning outcome A, I will be taking lecture 2 and 3 very small 10 minute, 5 minute lectures, because these are totally different aspects. That what are different sources of finance, what are the different sources of liquidity of a company, short term, that is primary and secondary. Now what is the meaning of primary? Now what is the meaning of primary? When I say primary, please open your registers. Please start writing down something. What is the meaning of primary? When I say primary is the main source. For example, you have already done CFA or you are doing CFA, along with that you will be doing FRM after some period. So I will say CFA is your primary source of income, and FRM, risk management, financial risk, that course is secondary one. It means primary means, for example, for an entity there are 2 types of objectives in an objective clause. In an object clause, primary object, that we will be doing this, we will be doing this, we will be doing this, we will be doing this. What can be a primary object of Apollo Tires? Can you tell me? Apollo Tires primary object will be to manufacture and to sell tires. That can be a primary object. But along with that, they can also have some ancillary or secondary objects also, which are not their main objects. Main object is, primary object is through their operating activities. I repeat. So there can be different types of activities which an entity take. Operating activity, investing activity, financial activity, primary activity, secondary activities. So I am talking of primary activities. So my dear friend, today in today's lecture number 2, I will be covering with learning outcome A. And in that I will be telling you the sources of liquidity, or what is the meaning of liquidity. Firstly, I want to tell you what is the meaning of liquidity. Can any one of you can tell me that what I mean by liquidity? What is liquidity? When I say liquidity, it means converting into cash. That is converting something into cash quickly. How quickly we are converting into cash? How quickly my cash is being generated? That is named as liquidity. As the name indicates, liquid. It means I can easily get cash from that. Some assets can be liquid, some assets can be illiquid. For example, if I want to sell a land is illiquid. It will take some time period to sell, because I have to find out the buyer and the deal will be stuck, and then only I can sell it. It is illiquid. But when I say liquid, I can say I have a stock. I can sell it now, or I have cash in my hand, or a bank balance, or marketable securities. These are cash and cash equivalents. These are liquid. So liquid means how quickly we can convert into cash. So liquidity is availability of cash, how quickly, and availability of cash can be possible with the help of two sources. One is primary and second is secondary. Primary is the main source. Primary is through operating activities. Primary is through your main business. And secondary is not your main source, because in urgency, because in emergency, because you require something, because there is primary source is not working properly, then only you will go to secondary source. For example, in case of Kingfisher Airlines, if cash is coming by the help of, by the trips from those aeroplanes, that is operating activity. But because cash is not coming, that liquidity position, there is a problem in case of Kingfisher Airline. So that they have gone for secondary source. That is they want to restructure their debt, and in actual they have restructured their debt. For example, now what is the meaning of restructuring of debt? When I say restructuring of debt, I mean that supposedly they have borrowed a loan from bankers, and Kingfisher Airline has to pay principal as well as interest, but they are not in a position to pay interest. So they are requesting their bankers that we are not able to pay interest. Either give us the time period, more time period, or just waive off some part of interest, or convert some part of debt into equity. I said three things: either waive off my interest, or give us a time interval to pay the new interest, or convert debt into equity. So all this is named as secondary or restructuring of debt. But may I tell you that this secondary source of liquidity is not considered as a positive sign for any entity, because liquidity should come from the primary source. Then only I will say this company is a positive feature. So let's write down something on this. So let's write down something. These ideas we will be writing down. Today will be lecture number 2. Lecture number 2, reading number 38. I will be covering with learning outcome A, describe primary and secondary sources of liquidity. So today we will be discussing with this learning outcome A and factors that influence liquidity position. And what are those factors which influence your liquidity position? And before writing down, I have written one quotation: do not stop until you are proud of yourself. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep doing, keep studying until you are proud of yourself. Don't stop. So please write the first point. Do not stop. Please write down first point in your register. What is the meaning of liquidity? Highly testable area. What I mean by liquidity, it implies how firms in normal generate cash. It implies how firms in normal generate cash. That is how quickly you can convert into cash. That is named as liquidity. How quickly you can generate into cash, or it implies how firms in normal generate cash. That something is liquidity. And there are two sources which I have just told you. Please write down. You have to write down. Don't try to be over smart. Please write down. This is the last topic, last reading of corporate finance. There are two sources of liquidity. One is primary source, the main source, and the second is secondary source. Secondary source. When I say main source, what I mean? Cash sales. What I mean? Cash collected from accounts receivable. Cash collected from accounts receivable. Cash credit, line of credit, bank overdraft. All these are primary source of liquidity. So please prepare a flowchart like this. There are two sources of liquidity. One is primary source of liquidity, and second is secondary source of liquidity. And when I say primary source, I mean the main source. It means with the help of that source, we can easily judge whether the company is doing good or not. That is primary source. For example, I have written three examples. Example number 1. Cash sales from normal operations. Cash sales from normal operations. Cash received from accounts receivables. Cash received from accounts receivables. It means from debtors. It means we have sold the goods on credit and we are getting that from our customers after that credit period. That is a cash received from accounts receivables. And third is line of credit. Supposing we require urgent cash and we are getting cash credit facility or bank overdraft from bankers. That is named as line of credit. So all these three sources are primary source of liquidity. And what about secondary source? I've written two examples. Sale of assets. For liquidity, you are selling your asset. That is not considered as a good source. So an entity should mainly depend upon primary source or should get the liquidity from primary source. And in case of occasional cases, they can go for secondary. So sale of assets and restructuring your debt. For example, in Kingfisher Airlines, they did restructuring of debt. That is by converting their interest, either waiving off their interest or getting the longer time interval for interest or converting interest or debt into equity. Now, the third point is very, very important, highly testable area. In normal operations, companies should meet their liquidity requirements from primary. But in case things are not well, or in special or emergency scenarios, my dear friend, you have to write down. In emergency or in special scenarios, secondary sources of liquidity can also be availed. In case of this, secondary sources can also be availed. So this is for today's lecture number 2. I have not covered the full LOS in A in this lecture number 2. Learning outcome A consists of different points. The first point is what are the different sources of liquidity, primary and secondary. And second point I will be covering in third lecture. That is, what are the factors which influence? What are the factors which influence the liquidity? So that I will be covering in next lecture number 3. Hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Be happy, be jolly, be cheerful.